Hi guys, welcome to the Modern Moms After Show. My name is Nicole and this is...
I'm Ken.
And if you haven't caught the first episode of the Modern Mom docu-series, definitely go and check that out, because what this video is about is basically we're going to discuss the points that were brought up in episode 1 and just kind of banter and discuss and talk about possible solutions or things that we wanted to kind of highlight on from the episode. So if you haven't checked that out, click on the link below, watch that first, and then head back over here to hear our discussion. So let's go! One of the interesting points that was brought up in episode 1 was really about the whole flexi hour and remote working, and there were some pointers that were brought up about how people in a traditional office sense are not really used to having remote working style or they find flexi hours a bit disrupting to work practices. So today we just want to discuss what are the underlying issues that is causing this kind of resistance or kind of like failure to launch in terms of remote working and flexi hours.
I think the key issue that one of the moms raised, I think it was Jifang who was raising it, she did say that it was a mindset issue. Okay, so I think like Skype and things like that, the key problem here that I want people to focus on is actually that moms wish they could spend more time with their children, especially in their developing years. And it seems that they cannot accomplish that. And it feels as though as they are torn between two sides, where they wish they could spend a bit more time with their kids. And in a situation whereby this is not possible, where the organization does not have the means to be able to afford the manpower, or for some reason there's a project going on and they need the staff to be present on site, that this would actually mean that the mother has to sacrifice the best years that she could have with her child, and she doesn't want to miss these moments actually with her child. Okay, I think there's a few things that we can talk about here. The very first thing that was highlighted was also the ability to measure the amount of work that would be done remotely. So I think from an organization standpoint, they might not know exactly what you're doing, or that comes under very close scrutiny when you are using Skype or remote working, which means they will be often asking, so what do you accomplish for today? Which is a very funny thing, because when you are in the office, that doesn't really come into question.
Yeah, in fact, the worst thing is that sometimes even though you're in the same office, you don't really know what the person has accomplished at the end of the day. You don't know how productive they were, because there is no real tracking system anyway. So I think that the point is that when people are taken out of sight, they have no comfort blanket or almost that kind of feeling that I'm actually kind of keeping an eye on this person when this person is in the office, when in actual fact we don't really have a productivity tracker to know whether people are being efficient or not.
Yeah, so how did my previous job track our productivity in that sense? I used to be a lecturer, I used to teach. Now the way they did it was goal setting. So we set our goals once a year and we revisit those goals in the middle of the year, and then at the end of the work year we'll revisit it one more time. So in a sense, and this is a discussion between your immediate supervisor and your manager, so it's kind of like only two people on your team or in your department who know exactly the objectives or the goals that you're working on. But that being said, your horizontals, which is your colleagues, right, who are working with you, they basically had no idea the amount of work or the sort of work that I was doing, and I in turn also did not know what they are doing. So sometimes there can be a great misunderstanding that they are actually doing nothing sometimes, but they are actually very busy, or it could be vice versa, they're actually doing
where you don't dare to disturb your colleague because you think they're very busy, or you think that they're very free and you're dumping a lot of work on them, and people get disgruntled. You're like, I'm really so busy, why do you still dump work on me? And I think that is really because there's no way anyone is tracking any kind of work being done. It's basically like figures in the air and iffy and cloudy and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Okay, I think one thing that was brought up when I was doing this whole research about remote working and flexi hours is the whole idea and the whole concept of work. So there are 3 different ways people can kind of look at work. So the first one is location-based. I am going to work. So you wake up, you get changed, you take a bus or MRT or you drive to your workplace, and that is what you call work. The second one is based on time, where you say I'm working now. So from 8 to 6:30, I'm working. And the third is task-based. I'm working on something. So that's a task-based mindset of looking at work. And I think that in general, most of us are very used to looking at work in terms of location and time.
Right, I agree with you. Yeah, and not enough is it being measured from a perspective of an output-driven kind of perspective. Yeah, or like if you finish a project or you finish an objective, it's more like what time you get to work, what time you stay until, and what time you're kind of allowed to leave. So I think there's a great misconception that the time you are spending in office equates to that you are actually working in that sense.
Yeah, and the more time you spend, the more productive, or rather the more work you are covering. When in fact we know that sometimes it's not really true. Some people may be taking like longer breaks, or like just working a bit slower, stuff like that. I think that location and time based like mindset of looking at work really gives one no incentive to be more efficient or to be more productive.
Precisely, that's what I was thinking about. I mean, like if you spend like 6 hours, for example, on a project, when you can actually finish it in half the time, and then you drag it out for like 6 hours, I don't see how this model is really working for both the employee and the employer as well.
In fact, you know that when you finish your work faster, you cannot leave earlier, so you're sitting there and just waiting for 6:30 or 5 o'clock to come. And what's worse is that you may actually face a situation where you are being done more work because you're so efficient and you're so fast at your
Yeah,
work.
so that usually transpires in the grander scheme of things to people dragging out their tasks, and it will inadvertently affect the entire organization, depending on how big a company is.
Yeah. So I think in a nutshell, maybe, this whole remote and flexi working hour, if we just changed our mindset to a more task-based kind of work, and we are in a way rewarding productivity, because the faster and the more efficient and the more innovative you are in finishing a certain task faster, you actually get rewarded because you have more time for yourself, more time for your kids, you get to take a break.
Yeah.
There are a lot of like good points to that.
I think one of the things that people don't really talk about is also the concept and the notion of trust in an organization, which is, if even if a parent spends 8 hours working at home, if he or she finishes his work like within 6 hours or 5 hours, why can't we reward or be open to reward them by allowing them to spend more time with their kids, especially if this is something that is articulated, that is on a parent's heart. This is something that means so much to them in this point of time. Why can't there be a little bit more give and take from the organization standpoint? This is a time where the parent needs to be taking a bit more. Okay, so I think if you look at it from a big picture, and I think it's because now the world is so fast paced, and the way organizations work is that they give you a 3-year contract, 2-year contract. It's no longer looking at a bigger picture. Yeah, so it is a real issue. That's what I'm trying to say.
In fact, there was this comment given by someone from a HR organization, and she talked about how the department in HR actually tried to do this flexi hour and remote working schedule, and then later on tried to like distribute, or rather like implement this policy in other departments. But some problems that they faced were, firstly, the people themselves, the HR department people themselves, actually felt like they were not as productive. They did not find working from home efficient, or it kind of like disrupted the way they worked. Number 2 was that obviously there was resistance from the other departments, and number 3, they talked about people who abuse the system, and how that kind of affects the mindset of managers, whether or not they want to adopt remote flexi working hours. Just implementing this policy alone is not enough. People have been so used to working in the office, and now you suddenly ask them to work from home, and they're like, "Oh my god, I don't know what to do. How do I work from home? How do I connect with people? How do I make decisions?" And I think that some kind of training has to, happen alongside implementing this policy.
Yeah, I think like companies need to not completely discount that remote working should be thrown out the window, or we should not look at it just because of a few bad eggs. What we're trying to say is that there can be more done in terms of tracking the productivity, in terms of looking for the tools and mechanisms, or how we can better do sharing, and just giving your boss the assurance that you're actually working on something, so he or she can ping you at any time, and you will be able to give a reply, so that there's assurances given. Yeah.
Yeah, in fact, we have been trying out this base camp where you kind of pretend to be like remote working, and I think it's really quite helpful. I think we used to use it in the previous company that I was working full time in, but we only used like one function. There are so many other functions that are so useful.
Yeah, so if you guys want to see us cut a tutorial on how to use Basecamp, or see particularly how we adopt it in our business, let us know in the comments below, or wherever you're watching this from. We'll be glad to show you.
Yeah. Definitely. So far what we have been talking about is like the different mentalities towards work, the different way we view work, whether it's location or time or task based. And we also talked about that implementing flexi hours and remote working policies need to come hand in hand with training and kind of systems like Basecamp to help to track productivity, and also it comes with a lot of discipline, I feel. The thing is that when we have a physical office or when everyone is around, we kind of take it like for granted, and we don't discipline ourselves to keep track of things, to plan in advance, to make sure that we write agendas for meetings so that they don't overrun unnecessarily, or to really track our work and be really aware of where our time goes to. So I think it really boils down to discipline and training. Here's a really small snippet of our discussion that we kind of have, with the people that we meet, and the moms and the dads, and the issues that, just kind of banter here and there. It's a really small slice. If you have an opinion on the matter, definitely, share it with us, and let's just get the discussion going. I mean, there are a lot of different situations and different types of jobs where you will face different situations and challenges that are unique to your industry. We'll definitely love to hear from you. Hope you enjoyed this discussion. Have a good one.
See you guys again in the next episode of the Modern Moms After Show.